Okay, so welcome back to Gumardee's Coins and Banknotes, and today we are continuing on with Malaysia's previous coins. So before I made coins or video from Sarawak, in the British North Borneo, and also straight settlements. So here's a straight settlement silver coin. These were demonetized in 1952, all the silver coins, and basically all the silver coins from this series were also demonetized at the same time, and only the copper nickel ones were left in place. So this is the Commissioner of Currency Malaysia. So this was a unified currency because initially straight settlements only were issued in 4 places, but were accepted in the federated and the unfederated states of Malaya. Okay, so at the time we have the straight settlements. They are in red. So we have Malacca, Singapore, Ding Ding, which is now part of Perak, and Penang. And then we have the blue, which is the unfederated states, and they had a high degree of independence, although they had British advisors, but the advisors were pretty much told them what to do, and they were more like protectorates. And also they were less developed because they had to rely on themselves for development. The Federated States was organised by the British with capital Kuala Lumpur, and they had a bit more development as the British guided them, but they had less independence. And if we say the Federated States consists of Selangor, Perak, Negeri Sembilan, and Padang. And as you can see, there is a Japanese occupation during the Second World War. Okay, so this coin series is not entirely related to those 3 separate entities. It was a combination of all them, and they shared the minting of coins together. So the straight settlements for signage, profits and liabilities have responsible for 37%. The federated states also 37%, and the unfederated states, which are less developed, 26%. And I would surmise the unfederated states also includes Brunei. It doesn't include Sarawak or British North Borneo. That because they were less developed, because the British had less actual input in how they developed, they would have had less revenue. So that's just a guess. If anyone knows the actual fiscal policies of the time period, please let me know. But anyway, in 1939 should I say, they issued their own coins, and all this is based on a report issued in 1934. Okay, it was, I forget the guy's name. Okay, Sir Basil Blackett, 1934, recommended participation of all the Malaysian states in a currency ordinance, so a currency union. But pretty much they were using straight settlements anyway, even though they didn't issue their own currency. And this was also in circulation in Sarawak and British North Borneo. Although they weren't essentially legal tender, they were accepted. Okay, so these coins come in ½ cent, 1 cent in bronze, and initially the silver coins were 5, 10 and 20 cent, and in 1948 they issued the copper nickel coins in replace of silver in 5, 10 and 20 cent. And you can see that there's there's 2 denominations missing. We have the 50 cent, they'd never issued, so this is the last issue of silver 50 cent coins, 1921. In 1926 they last issued the $1, which is more like a trade coin. So that's why that was issued up until 1926, because it was for international trade. But I would say by that time a lot of it had dropped off, and a lot of countries like Philippines, Hong Kong, would not have accepted that type of coinage in there for circulation or payments of taxes. That's all this is. This is all for just payments of taxes. So governments produce this. Now they do it mostly digitally. They issue it, and to actually get rid of it, they take taxes. So taxes don't pay for anything. Federal government, it just destroys currency. Okay, so we have the half a cent. So this is 2.91 grams, 18.5 millimeters of bronze. It's a nice coin. Had a mintage of 6 million, and these are all minted in the United Kingdom in the Tower Mint. And this was at the start of the Second World War, so the strain on resources had not taken off yet. And on this side we have George VI, King Emperor. So King of Britain, Australia, whatever. Emperor of India. Okay, has PM because this is a Purdy Metcalf effigy of George VI. Okay, then we have the 1 cent. So this is a more common denomination. So we have two sizes. We have the smaller size up the top and the larger down below. So 1939 to 41, they issued the larger one. Bronze 5.83 grams and 21.4 millimeters going across. And then from 1943 45, they reduced the weight of these top ones, 4.21 grams and 20 millimeters. But these were never issued in 1943-45 because the country was occupied by the Japanese. And the Japanese changed a lot of things. So these all fell out of circulation pretty much during the Japanese reign. I would say the Japanese would have hoarded this with a precious metal. And this one was minted in preparation for the return of the British in 1945. Although they probably at the time they never knew. And these ones, they still continued to be legal tender until they were withdrawn. Okay, so the large coin has three mintages. So I've got two here. So we have 1939, has a mintage of 20 million. And in this condition, probably about $5 to $10. Then we have the 1940. This one you can find in pretty good grade. Has 23.6 million. So that one is pretty much uncirculated. And these ones are also legal tender after the Second World War, as I just said. Then there's a 1941, which I find harder to get, so I'm not too sure why. 33.62 million. So that shouldn't be too hard to get. Just find it hard to actually pick up. Maybe a lot of them were actually lost to the Japanese destroying the submarines. Okay, so then we have the 1943. So this one also, you can get this for $5 or less. 1943 mintage of 50 million, and these also come in proof. None of these are proof coins. Proof are just high quality coins. But here we have a 1945, and this one's pretty much in the grade you can actually get it for $5 to $10. So it's at 40,033,000. So pretty common, and you shouldn't really find it hard to actually get one of these coins in this condition. It seems that a lot of these were actually kept by people. And 1945 is the last year they issued the 1 cent coin with the George VI effigy for the currency Malaya. The next coin they issued is for the Malayan British Borneo. So that's actually quite nice. Okay, so the next denomination we have is the 5 cent. So from 1949 to 41, they were 75% silver. Then from 1943 to 45, obviously these are not issued at the time period. They were issued after the Second World War. They were 50% silver. So this is also 1.36 grams, 16 millimeters. Now, that being the case, it means that they would have had to reduce the actual thickness of the coin from, what did they, okay, don't know the thickness of the 75, but the 50% is 0.95, so I would say the thickness of this coin would actually be a bit thinner, probably 0.9, because silver has a higher weight than copper, nickel, or copper should I say. Okay, so the mintage for 1939 is 2 million, that's why I haven't got one. 1941, 4 million, still pretty low. Population of the whole place at the time is probably, for 4 to 5 million. And then there's a 1941 I minted in India for mint mark. So you need to check to see if any of these coins have a mint mark on them. Should be below the cent, and this one does not. And as you can see, a lot of these probably never entered circulation because they were either hoarded or they were just never reached Malaya at the time of the Japanese invasion in 1942. Okay, so then we got 43 to 45. So 43 had 10 million. 1945 without the mint mark 8.8 million. With the I mint mark 4.6 million. So once again, just check if the 1945 is a mint mark. No, and as you can see, it's actually quite a dirty coin, so this would have circulated well. And up the top I have, these are my spare coins that I'm selling, so I've got a whole bunch of 1 cent coins. Okay, then I've got 5 cents, so these are copper, nickel, silver. 10 cent, copper, nickel, silver. 20 cent, copper, nickel, and silver. So we check these coins. So I've got 1941, 41 again, 41, and 43, so I don't have any spare 1945. I was selling that 1945, but nah, I'm gonna keep it. Screw that. Because someone will go, I'll pay you $5 for it, and I'm like, hey, piss off. So you can see that the high, so this is a 75%, these three, they are thinner than the 50%. So it's 0.95, so this is, I would say, probably 0.8 millimeters in thickness. Okay, so then we have the copper nickel coins, and these are only worth $1 or $2. So the mintage for these ones is only 2 mints, 1948. So this is a mintage 30 million, 1950 had a mintage of 40 million. So really, they are very common issues. And once again on the back, King George VI. So also you can see that they changed the wording and removed emperor because he was no longer emperor of India. So that's also another change. And these would have been removed from circulation quite quickly because people would have known about the value of silver and how copper nickel is not worth as much. And also the specifications of the coin change. So this is 1.36 grams. This one is 1.41. This one is 16 millimeters. This one's 16.2. So when you put them together, you can see that there is a change in the actual size of the coin. So that also occurred on the other denominations. So this 10 cent went from 2.71 grams to 2.83 grams, and 80 millimeters to 19.4. So when you dump it on top of each other, you can see that there's a pretty substantial change in the size of the coin. So that's how one way you can also distinguish the denominations and their change in metal value. Okay, so this is one of the more common coins. 1939 mintage 10 million. As you can see, this one's in pretty good condition. These silver ones are uncirculated. 41, 17 million. And then we have 1943, only has 5 million, and 1945, no mint mark, 3.152 million, and there's no mintage for India. It seems to be quite hard to get. So these ones, what you need is the 1945 with the mint mark. The mint mark should be below the cent. So this is actually quite nice. Now, even though these are a bit boring, the design is actually quite a nice thing to look at. So once again, here we have the obverse at the front of the coin with the motto going around, and here we have the after the independence of India, and we have 1948. So 1948 has a mintage of 23,885,000. Then we have two other coins. So we have 1949, which they didn't issue for have a denomination, so 26,115,000. 1950 is the most common, had 65 million. So it's a very common coin, and these ones shouldn't really cost more than $1 in pretty good condition. But these ones, you'll be paying bullion value and probably about $10 to $20 for a coin in this condition. Okay, for the 20 cent, these are all the coins you're going to get. So you got 1939, that's the only year of issue for the 75%. Got 250%, 1943, 45. Now, was the Indian one issued for that? Yes, there was. No mint mark. With a mint mark, I don't have, but it seems to be the ones with the mint mark seems to be the hardest to get. So 1945 with the I mint mark are the key dates. Okay, so 1943, 5 million. 1945 without the mint mark, 10 million. Then we have 1948. We have 40 million for 1948. 1950 we have 20 million. And they were also issued in proof for, seems like most of the denominations. 1939 had a mintage of 8 million. And the bullion value of this coin in Australian dollars on the 13th of September 2025. Is it September or October? God, I can't remember what bloody month I'm in. Oh yeah, September. God, where did October go? It is $8.31. The 50% is $5.54. So really, this coin, even in this condition, probably costs you about $20. You can actually get them in pretty good condition. And then we have the 50%, yeah, probably from $10 and up. So really, these are, not, even though the design's not bad, they're all the same, so really it makes it a bit boring. And also the change of these coins. So the 20 cent went from 5.43 grams to 5.65, and it went from 23.2 to 23.5. So not a bigger change, but if you put a whole bunch of them together, like we're going to do now, you should be able to see a slight difference. So, and also the thickness has changed on these coins. So anyway, I hope this helps you with your Malay coins. So if you're from Malaysia and you'd like to collect Malaysian coins, well, you need to get this series. Only the silver coins are going to be quite expensive. The rest of them really not going to be that hard to get. Anyway, thank you very much. Have an awesome coin banknote collecting time, and take care.